Good morning. It is currently Thursday, October 16th at 7:30 in the morning, and we are just about to get started with our day, coding our current startup. For those of you that are new here, I'm building out an app called Yori, which you can find at yori.ai. And now exactly what we do, we're still working on like the correct copy to get like the fancy one-liner text of what we're doing. But essentially, we're trying to build the ultimate social media marketing tool set, a suite of tools to cover everything anyone would possibly need for social media marketing help. Now, obviously, social media marketing is a very all-encompassing thing with so many different responsibilities, and there's so many problems to solve in the space, but we picked two big problems to solve in the beginning. Number one is a better hiring platform of highly vetted creators that we train in-house, that we make sure they're high quality. And in the previous startup episode, I spent time building out our creator onboarding portal, essentially a portal where creators can sign up, connect their social media accounts, create a video profile highlighting some of their best performing content. And the reason why we do this is so that whenever brands in the future want to come over to us and say, hey, I'm looking for XYZ type of creator for a marketing campaign, we can do some AI semantic searching throughout our entire database, find the best creators that match their description, handle all the contract negotiation, handle all the payouts, and serve these creators to them on a silver platter. That's the first responsibility that we're solving, and we are currently actively getting real creators onboarded right now. Like, let me check how many creators we got. We currently have 17 creators onboarded. Not a lot, not enough to like really scale. We definitely got to get to like multiple hundreds or multiple thousands actually, but every single product starts from somewhere. Now, the second big problem that we're going to try to solve in the social media marketing space, which is going to be the main thing we're going to be building in this week's video, is going to be a tool to help people make better content. Because what do social media marketers have to do after hiring creators? Well, they have to figure out how to make good content that markets their product and goes viral on social media. And we have been thinking a lot about this, and we ultimately want to make like the best content inspo tool, maybe even a content cheat code tool. Like, we will rot our brains for you on social media so that you don't have to rot your brain and scroll. We're gonna manually scroll and find the best pieces of content of high performing viral marketing content specifically, and have a basically content database for you to look through. And then from this viral content database, not only can you look through them, but then you can also remix it to, let's say, make it fit your product better. Like, let's say we have a content inspo tool that's about like a, I don't know, like a dating app. Is there some way if we can then have a remix button that we can send the context of this entire video, and then you tell us what product you're building or what niche you want this content to be in, and then we'll remix the entire piece of content, have an entire script, maybe later on even video gen later on, to recreate this video, but specifically for your product or your niche instead. Pretty excited to build this one out. Really technical, lots of interesting things going on, and right now I don't really know how I'm gonna do that. So it's time to research. I'm hoping that we can get some type of basic MVP working by early next week, work over the weekend, work every single day, including the weekends. I do have some travel coming up this weekend. Not the best time to go traveling, if I'm being honest. It's, I quit my job, not making nearly as much money as I did when I was holding down a day job, and traveling and going on these little vacations with friends is expensive. But life is short, whatever, it doesn't matter. We're gonna go there, we're gonna work, have fun, do everything, and we're gonna be building this feature out as well. So let us begin some of the research process to figure out how exactly I might build this really exciting content inspo bank content cheat code tool. I don't know what to call it, but you get the gist. Let's start researching a little bit. All right, I'm back. I did some planning out on how exactly we are going to build out this content database tool, content inspo tool. Now, this is really going to be separated into two major parts. The first part is going to be this content database that we got to build out. And the second part is going to be this content remixing, such that whenever a user of our platform finds a certain piece of content that they really like, and they want to then use it as inspiration to create their own version of it for their own specific niche or their own specific product, then they can remix it that way. So that's kind of like the two main things that we're going to be building out. And I'm going to guess that this week is probably going to be spent building out the first part of it, the building out the content database part. So I did create a quick system diagram to walk you through it all. Essentially, let's dive into this bad boy right here. So the first thing that we're doing is for this content database tool, right? We essentially are gonna have our admin users like myself and my co-founder. We have a master spreadsheet document of all of this really good viral marketing content that we keep track of. So only admin users are gonna get access to this, and then they're gonna enter in a list of video URLs. And then when add this list of video URLs, we can then begin the scraping process. Hit this API endpoint, API/viral content/scrape. Then the actual scraping process begins. Now, scraping is something that is really time intensive, and my app is built with Next.js and it's all done serverless. And the biggest downside of serverless is the fact that functions have a maximum timeout as to how long that they can run. And this is probably not going to be an issue if we're only scraping 1 or 2 videos at a time, but I want to make sure that we can handle a scenario where we're trying to scrape 100 or 200 videos at a time, you know? And we want to make sure we can scale and handle this type of operation without timing out at all. And the way that we're going to work around this timeout issue is by using a tool called Upstash Workflows. I've actually created a video talking about how this whole thing works, called How to Avoid Serverless Function Timeouts. Sheesh, that video flopped. That hurts. But regardless, I'm going to be using this tool called Upstash Workflow, which essentially lets us build durable, reliable, and performant serverless functions. Basically, lets us still have this serverless architecture, but not have to worry about timeout. Definitely recommend watching this video on how exactly that all works, but that's the basic gist of it. So essentially how this Upstash workflow is going to work is that for every single video URL that we're going to loop through, the very first thing we're going to have to do is get a list of all the TikTok videos we're scraping and then a list of all the Instagram videos that we're scraping. Those are going to be the 2 major social media platforms that we're going to be focusing on at first. Maybe later on we'll add other platforms, but for now, just TikTok and Instagram. Then from there, we will then first check out of this group of TikTok and group of Instagram videos, have we already scraped these videos before? Like, let's check if this content exists within our existing Supabase database. We have like a viral content database, and we want to check, have we already scraped these videos? Have we already checked these videos and saved it in our database or not? Just to make sure we don't have any repeat duplicate work. And then at the end, we only have a list of all the TikTok and Instagram videos that have not been saved in our database yet. So then what we do there is we then begin the scraping process, and we use a scraping provider of Appify, this one right here. So they have a dedicated TikTok scraper and a dedicated Instagram scraper. So then we do the whole scraping process for all the URLs. Once again, if it's only 1 URL, it'll be pretty quick, but if it's like 100, it can take a long time. Then within the same Upstash workflow, we are then able to let the scraping happen, and then it will provide a response, and then like maybe an hour or 2 later, once the scraping process is done, and then Upstash Workflows lets us then react to that response and begin processing logic to download the videos, save it in our database, and store it so that other people can interact with it. So Upstash Workflow is going to be the key piece of technology here to let us still maintain our serverless architecture, but not have the same limits of like maximum runtime, but not run into the issue of exceeding the maximum runtime limit for serverless functions on Vercel and Next.js. So that's the whole scraping portion of the feature. And then now the whole actual remixing part of the feature, well, okay, actually, if I'm being honest, this is probably subject to change, but just for now, just for clarity's sake, essentially now that we have all of these content database stored within our database, the users are going to be able to view all of it. Then as they view all of it all, and then they decide they want to remix something, say, hey, I want to use this video as inspiration for my own piece of content, then we will use the Gemini API, because the Gemini API right now is the only API out of the major providers that supports video as input. So then we're going to take that video, upload it into Gemini, then the user will then start hitting the Gemini API endpoint and using that endpoint with all of the video context to craft their final script and remix it for their own take. So that's a quick high-level overview of how the entire system will work for this content inspo, content cheat code tool, whatever you want to call it. We're still figuring out the naming for it. So that's a quick system design. And honestly, this is a really helpful exercise. I don't do this for every single feature that I built, but this one in particular felt pretty technically complicated. So I'm happy that I was able to do this exercise. It just gives me a little bit more clarity on what exactly I'm trying to build. And now that all the planning is done, time to actually go out there and start building it out. And right as I'm about to get started on this next coding montage, as somebody that's been coding for the past decade, I have tried basically every single flavor of IDE text editor out there. Vim, Emacs, Atom, Sublime Text, VS Code, you name it. But the most recent coding environment that I find myself using isn't an IDE, but rather an ADE, an agentic development environment. A piece of software that treats coding agents as first-class citizens rather than just an add-on to a traditional IDE. And the team pioneering this is the sponsor of today's video, Warp. Warp is already used by over 600,000 developers, and it's one of the most unique twists on agentic coding that I've seen so far. On the surface, it's a familiar terminal environment, but underneath the hood, there is really powerful agentic coding software. When you open up a coding project in Warp, you can index up to 40 different code bases that you can use as context to feed into your AI coding agent. Once the indexing is complete, you can just tell your AI agent to go off and make changes right then and there directly within your terminal. Just enter in any command and then Warp intelligently switches between you treating it as a CLI command or automatically detecting that it's an agentic coding process that you want to kick off. You can add files in your code base as context to your AI coding agent, and you can even look through various files to add in as context through Warp's built-in file tree, no IDE necessary. As the AI coding agent goes off and makes changes, you can either ask for revisions or you can jump in and make manual changes yourself using Warp's built-in lightweight text editor. The best part, you don't have to open Emacs, Vim, or any other IDE. It's all built in natively inside of Warp. Then when I'm ready to commit my changes, the code review panel is a game changer. It gives me a single clear view to view all the code changes I made against my main branch in a second. It's one of those features that make you wonder how you ever worked without it, especially when you compare it against some of the traditional AI coding CLI tools. This is the new standard for development. It's faster, smarter, and more intuitive. It's no wonder engineering teams at over half of the Fortune 500s are already on it. Warp is free, but for a limited time, try Warp Pro for free for 7 days with 2,500 AI credits, no card required. Check it out at the link in the description. One thing that I've done a lot during this building process of Yori is talking to a ton of other founders and a ton of other investors. And at first, I thought that this would be really helpful for the development of Yori. You know, it kind of makes sense. It feels like most investors and at least some of the founders that I've been talking to, they seem pretty smart. They go to good schools, they've made successful companies, made a lot of money. So at first glance, you think that they're really smart, and I'm sure that they are really smart. And because they've been in the startup space, they provide a lot of advice, and because they've achieved a lot more than I have, I'm really keen to listen to what their advice is. And while sometimes this can be really beneficial, at least for me, just it's been so distracting for me in terms of building out my app, because basically whenever these successful founders or successful investors provide me some type of advice, I just take it so deeply that I almost feel like I listen to the advice too deeply and too intently that it actually almost shakes my core belief of what I believe the product should be like. Their opinion and their feedback and their product direction is so loud in my head that it really distracts me from the original vision that my co-founder and I originally started off with trying to build out our app and our business. So one takeaway that I've gotten over the past couple of weeks is that yes, it is important to talk to users. Yes, it is important to talk to people in general to get feedback about your app, because feedback is a gift, but it's also really important to have belief in your own vision and to not let other people's opinions and visions influence yours too much. This is your product. You know why you started building this. You know the problem you're trying to solve. You should know this problem more intimately than anyone else out there. So talk to other smart people, get feedback, but also learn to block out the noise. And that's honestly something that my co-founder and I are doing right now. We're significantly reducing the number of calls and chats we're having with our founder and investor friends, because it just feels like it's way too much noise and it's just throwing us for a loop and really distracting us in terms of building our product vision that we had from day one. Because fun fact, we actually had a very similar idea to what we were building over a year ago, but then a year ago we talked to way too many people. We spent way too much time on entrepreneurship social media that it totally distracted us and convinced us that what we were building was a bad idea. But in hindsight, if we had just continued building out this product a year ago, we would be in such a better place right now. But you know, hindsight's always 2020. So this time around, we're really trying to fix that mistake, not get distracted, and really trust our gut and trust our instincts. All right, y'all. You know the drill. It is currently, I'm traveling this weekend. Once again, horrible time in my life to plan out all of these little trips with my friends, because your boy's got no job and his income has severely declined. But hey, there's never a good time to quit your job and go on something. So I'm traveling with a friend on another little weekend trip. But you know the drill. We got some morning grind time right now at 7 a.m. Ain't none of my friends awake, nor will they be awake probably until 9 or 10 a.m. at the earliest. So got some morning coffee, chilling in the hotel lobby. Oh, kind of rhymed. That was some bars right there. Holy damn, I'm a rapper now. Okay, and got my laptop. You guys don't know how embarrassing this is for me to film in public. I'm dying on the inside doing this right now. So this is me pushing myself out of my comfort zone. I think just doing things, growing more, being less embarrassed on a day-to-day basis. So I'm literally dying filming in public doing this right now. I just have people walk by me staring at me like, yo, what's this guy doing? That hurts so bad. God damn. So yesterday I got a lot of work done both at home, on the flight, and in the airport. So we got for the viral content database feature, and primarily what I did was I created the API endpoint to handle all of the scraping such that I can dump in like unlimited amount of URLs as well as any like relevant metadata, and then I am able to scrape all of that information and save it into my database. Supposedly, but hypothetically, I did it with 1 or 2 posts yesterday. I was able to test that it works. So now I'm about to do a much bigger scraping job. I'm gonna try it with like 20 or 30 different database. I'm gonna try it with 20 or 30 different content pieces to scrape and see how it'll perform. I think it should be able to scale and handle it all without any errors. And then I'm gonna do another test probably later in the week with like 100 or 200 pieces of content to fill our database with. So API route cleanup, gonna put it through the test right now, probably run into a couple errors, but that's what I'm gonna do, and let's see if the test works. So you know how 3 hours ago I thought that I had the perfectly working API endpoint to handle all the content scraping and dumping into my viral content database? Yeah, I was wrong. It's 3 hours later, it's 10 a.m. and I gotta head out now because my friends are finally awake. But I've been debugging this for 3 hours because it wasn't working. It's crazy. I thought it was working when I was coding on it in the airplane down here, and didn't even test it. Or I tested it with like 1 video every single time. Only just one, and it worked perfectly fine. Didn't even think to bother testing it with 2. And it totally broke once I started testing with 2, and then let alone like 5 or 10. So it's been a bit of an ordeal, but we finally have some working version of it. So let me show you. I mean, there's not really much to show you. I can just show you the successful request. Oh yeah, look at that. We have a successful Upstash workflow going through to completion. It worked all the way through. And then if you also check the database entries, you can see right now we're looking at the viral content library table, and we have some entries in there. It is far from perfect. It's just barely working at this point. So we have some working API endpoint. Friends are awake. We got to start exploring, having some fun, and detach a little bit, walk away from coding for a little bit. But I'm definitely still itching to come back and code. Like, honestly, it's pretty bad. I'm just like so obsessed with this. It's literally all that I think about, even when I'm outside, out and about with friends and family. It lives rent-free in my head. Probably good for the business that I actually care a lot about what I'm building, but bad in the sense that it does take me away from like friends and family and a lot of quality time. So I'm trying to do a better job of detaching and really just being like, when I'm playing, I'm playing. When I'm working hard. So I'm gonna step away for a bit, hopefully come back later tonight, maybe later in the afternoon, and get back on the laptop and bang out some code. So hopefully see you then. Okay, it is currently Tuesday, October 21st. I think I last filmed either Saturday or Sunday talking about, oh yeah, I'm gonna be pretty close to getting this scraping, this content inspiration scraping feature done, and the video analysis, storing it in the database. I should be done pretty soon. I lied, that did not happen. It is only now Tuesday at 4:40 p.m. after working all day, like really heads down grinding on this feature, that I finally have a very resilient backend API endpoint to handle just like scraping this content to create this content inspiration, and also have an AI breakdown that's like a very, very, very in-depth explanation of what that video content is like. Now, granted, it did work like 80% of the way there over the weekend, but as any engineer will probably tell you, the first 80% of building the feature is always the easiest, and it's always that last 20% where you deal with these really random edge cases through testing, making it really resilient, knowing how to handle retry logic, error handling, all that stuff. That is the part that takes a very, very, very long time, and that is what took me an incredibly long time. Like 3 days longer than I ever originally anticipated this taking me to build out. But we finally have a working API endpoint. That is just one part of the equation. That's the backend portion of it. Now it is time to build out the client side, making it all pretty and make it actually usable by real users. Building out Yori is probably the longest that I've ever spent building out a product before launching it and actually getting users or customers onto it. Typically, I try my best to spend like 2 weeks, maybe max 1 month working on a product before I force myself to launch it and really test it and validate it to get some users. But this time it just feels a little different, and not gonna lie, there's a part of me that feels a little worried that I'm taking so long. I think I'm currently at 1.5 months, almost 2 months of building out this initial iteration of the software, and this feels really, really wrong to me. I feel like we should launch quickly. We feel like we should get some really quick feedback from initial users, but then at the same time, the idea of what this product is does feel a lot larger in scope. And since it is trying to target some more prosumer users like enterprises and businesses, I feel like it does need to be more feature rich and have a lot more added to it before getting them to use the tool. And I'll be really honest and pretty vulnerable right now. I don't know if this this is the right thing to do. This is kind of a big bet, spending so much time building the initial version of the product, but then what if the end users don't like it? But then the flip side to that is the fact that this space of social media marketing is a space that myself and my co-founder know really, really well. So we feel like we have already a big silo of knowledge that we have. So we feel like we've already built up a lot of knowledge in this space, such that we need to build something really robust to solve the problems that we know other businesses are facing during their social media marketing efforts. But in the end, this could still be wrong, but who knows? There's only one way to find out. One thing that I'm really trying to do better this time around is having a stronger bias for action. It's so easy for myself to go through mental gymnastics to convince myself like, oh, this is a good feature, this is a bad feature, we should launch this, we shouldn't launch that. But in the end, why guess when you can test? In the previous startup episode, I talked about how my co-founder and I were discussing, oh, should we launch first with this hiring tool? Or, oh, should we launch first with this content inspiration tool? And we spent so many hours discussing this, figuring out what's the best first product, first feature to launch within Yori. But at the end of the day, we realized it doesn't matter. Just launch both, see how it goes, and then let the users decide which tool they like the best. We'll keep track of what features users are actually using and which ones they're not using, and the users will help shape that product direction for us rather than us forcing some type of product direction in the beginning. So now we're really trying to get in that mindset of launch a lot, ship a lot, get users to use the tool a lot, and let them dictate what that product roadmap is going to look like moving forward. Good morning, gentlemen, and like 2% ladies, because the vast majority of my viewers are gentlemen. So I know last night I was in a deep working state, flow state, whatever you want to call it, grind mode, Sigma grind set, just building out this like content database feature, and specifically trying to build out the UI for the content database feature. And we got some news, we got some updates, we got a little MVP up and running. Let me show you what we got. Obviously, this is not the actual database. This is just like dummy posts from my Instagram and TikTok accounts, but you can see we have a nice little front-end UI right there on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, when the user clicks in on it, they can view the actual video itself on the platform, all of its engagement metrics. And you can also click around like, ooh, wow, so cool, nice. So, ooh, wow, scrolling, so much inspo, so viral, crazy good. So in some sense, we finally have some type of working end-to-end product for this. That's the big milestone that I wanted to finish by the end of this video, and I have. Now the big next phase of what probably the next week of working is going to look like for me is really just how do we really productize this in the end. I think right now we've been kind of working just building features just for some internal proof and internal validation. Like, does this work? Can this work? Can we get some type of version of this working? And that's what we did with this content database for viral content database, as well as our current database of potential content creators, highly vetted content creators, UGC creators that you can work with. So we finally have been able to get just the product working, up and running. So now the next week is going to be spent really just making sure people can actually sign up, pay for it, use it, and get real use case and utility out of it. We track what they're using, what they're not using, just so we have some better sense of how users are going to be using our products. So a lot of cleanup to do, a lot of productionizing, a lot of productizing, getting payments, and just figuring out how to make a good new user onboarding experience to make sure when they come to our app, it's a great experience. We know it works. Now, how do we make sure that it works really intuitively and really seamlessly for the end user? That's the next goal for this coming week. Really hoping to like finally get this product out to help other builders, marketers, whoever it is, just get better inspiration on building and marketing on social media through hiring other content creators that we vetted, or just looking at our viral content database and seeing what inspo they can get for their content here. So that is the end for today's video. I'm gonna wrap this up. The minute I stop filming this video, I'm gonna start filming the next video, because this is a weekly startup vlog series. So if you want to see more of this type of content, then make sure to hit that subscribe button. It comes out every single week. That's the plan, that's the goal at least. Hope you enjoy, and that's it. All right, see ya.